Hello and welcome to the Joyful Rebels podcast where rebellion meets wellness. We've got Claire and Donna Thomas here, your mother daughter duo, and we're here to bring you our insight, some science, and maybe some laughs in this, our pursuit of finding more peace, more joy, and more balance in our physical and mental health. Thank you for listening today, for joining us as we discuss some practical tips to empower you on your journey to living your best life. So, again, welcome to this week's brand new episode. If you've been following along the past few weeks, we've really been focusing on one major topic, something that's near and dear to our hearts, something that we really truly believe is important. If you're a joyful rebel, you're going to work on getting to know yourself.
Mm.
So, the first thing we did is we identified our strengths, and that was really fun. I will say, you get to call up the wins that you've had, all this evidence that you are awesome. Then we named what's important, which is also really important. It was this mixture of brainstorming and reflection because if you want to identify goals that you have, if you want to live your examined life, you need to figure out what's important to you. Today, we're going to go a little bit more shadow side, which, hey, we do that on Joyful Rebels. And we're going to talk about seeing our struggles. So, struggling, it's a part of the human existence, right? Even if we want to run and hide from it, our struggles are not going to go away. If you're someone that tends to sweep everything under a rug, how's that going for you?
Mm.
and I say that with hand on my heart and with love because that was me for a long time, probably more time than I want to admit. But that's not going to solve any of your problems, right? It's going to either, build up. You've got a denial there. You're going to feel some dissonance. You might even just have that lurking feeling like you got those shadows there, like something's not good because you're not shining a light on it. So that's what we're going to do today. And just bigger picture, Mom, we really think it's important to destigmatize talking about mental health issues. And of course, as I'm going to echo what you said last week, Mom, if you want to dig deeper and you realize you need some more guidance or clarity, then you're going to seek professional help. And we
Yeah.
100% endorse and support that. But today, like if you want to start to unpack some of these issues, especially under the guise of getting to know yourself, then you're going to work through this topic with us today. And we're going to be here right alongside with you, starting to again shine a light on some of your struggles. So, when I say seeing your struggles and talk about struggling, Mom, like what does that mean to you?
Hmm. I I like looking at struggles because struggles are the things that are inevitable.
Mm,
And I think that's good. That's really my answer in a nutshell. That if something is unsavory or it was really a challenge for me, the one-offs or how the tempo of life goes, where you have those throughout your day, they're going to come and go. I don't go, that was a struggle. I better stop my life and like take a look at it. If I see that there's a pattern and I've had it either a couple of days or weeks in a row, then I take a look at it. So I think it's a life philosophy. I
mm,
think that struggles are inherent. I think they help make us grow. I know that they have helped me to become more aware and to find out the details of how I tick in this season. Like there's signals.
mm-hmm,
There's signals, and a one-off signal is different. Like my blinker on in the car is different than the check engine light. So they give me information. One's more urgent than the other. So I think that a struggle is not something that's like the blinker, like it comes on, it's a challenge. It's something that stays there for a little while, and then I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a look at that because I keep tripping over it, and I don't want to keep tripping over it. That's a choice. That's a choice. I want to live a life where I feel as happy and peaceful as possible. That's one of our core values, is that we want to create some peace and ease for everybody. So sometimes we're going to have to look at the shadow side of things to get to the brighter side. So one struggle, pattern of it, then I start to take a look at it. How about you, Claire?
yeah, I like how you said struggles are a signal. And another car analogy, Mom. We are just full of car analogies lately. This is so funny. It's like a
So
whole new
us.
avenue for us.
All.
No, but I love what you said about just the oscillating and the up and down because I think it's one of those interesting things that might be counterintuitive about wanting to be more happy. It's not about trying to be happy all the time. It's
Yeah.
that understanding that it's the temporary states. And sometimes there's going to be the highs and sometimes there's going to be the lows. And so trying to ignore or get rid of every struggle in your life, that's not just going to be this magic path to happiness. Instead, though, what we can do is, like we said a couple times now, shine a light on these struggles because then there might be some choices or some action that we can take. And many of the struggles that we're going to talk about today, and if you're here listening and you're brainstorming on your own, they're kind of predictable. They're these uncomfortable outcomes of just regular human thoughts and psychological processes. So while you are unique, while we are each unique, we may have some of these struggles in common. And again, you can't do anything about it if you're hiding it. So
Mm.
these aren't things, again, that you need to X out of your life and get rid of. It's this horrible part of you. We're not saying that at all, but we're going to identify it. And then when we do, then hey, maybe we can do something about it to improve our situation. Or sometimes it's just about putting our attention where attention is needed, like that check engine light
Mhm.
in your
Yeah,
car.
which I have
So,
been known to ignore at times, and it's never turned out well. Mm-mm.
so today, what we've got for you is two mini activities if we're looking at seeing our struggles. And the first thing that I'm gonna walk you through is really focusing on two outcomes, whether we can have some action or some acceptance. So if you've got a pen and paper, your notes app, whatever it is, or you just want to do this mentally, that's cool. But what I want you to do is call to mind something that you struggle with. And maybe you can even envision that you've got like this little flashlight scanning around your brain and you're just trying to shine a light on something that you don't maybe always want to think about. Maybe you're guilty of trying not to think about it. Maybe it's a pattern that's been showing up that you're just kind of sweeping under the rug. So I'm telling you, I'm giving you this permission to let's take a look at it. And this doesn't have to be the deepest, darkest struggle that you have. It can be a low hanging fruit, the first thing that comes to mind. That's cool. We're just looking to walk through an example here. We're putting some texture around the struggle. So this could be something that's physical, a mental issue you're dealing with, emotional. Pick your struggle. Then, when you got it, I've got some questions. Again, just to put some texture, we're kind of brightening the light. How long have you been struggling with this issue?
Mm.
And for me, there's some ahas when I think about it because maybe you're like forever. I
Mm.
mean, that's just, oh, I've always been this way. But really ask yourself, like, has it just been something persistent throughout time that you can remember? And maybe it is. Or maybe it's related to something. Oh, since this new job, since the baby was born. It can just be interesting to see. Maybe it was situational. Or again, there's no right or wrong answer here. But what we're doing is giving some air to this topic that we usually keep buried down.
Mhm.
The next question that I have for you is, are other characters involved in this? Now, we're not looking to play the blame game here and say my struggle is because of X, Y, and Z. Uh, but we're giving texture to the story, right? A story has multiple characters usually. So who's involved in this? How long has it happened? Is there a location maybe
Mhm.
where this struggle usually shows up? So again, just trying to tell this story about something that you're dealing with. And then now that we've had a few minutes to kind of have this thing more front and center in our brain, or maybe it's not used to seeing the light, we've got some options here. And this is what I mentioned a little bit before, but you can take some action, or maybe you're going to work on acceptance. And so my first question for you, is there any action that you can take today to alleviate some of the pain and discomfort associated with this struggle? Now, a side note here, we often get comfortable with our own struggles and pain because they're familiar.
Mm.
So, doing something to address that, doing some action that in the long run will alleviate that familiar pain, that of itself can be painful or awkward or uncomfortable. So, just if the action comes with its own maybe acute pain or some feelings come up, that doesn't make it wrong. But just think like, am I choosing the familiar pain of a struggle, or is there something that I can do today? So maybe your action is, I'm going to make an appointment with a therapist. Maybe it's, I'm going to email this person that I have a work relationship with to set up a meeting to actually address an issue. Uh, Maybe it's, I'm going to text a friend to be an accountability buddy because I've been struggling with consistency in something that I've said is important to me.
Mhm.
Uh, th- there's no right or wrong answer here. And usually, the smaller the action, again, if it's just shooting off a message or just taking that first step towards your goal, that's going to be the one that we want to shoot for, right? Because it doesn't
Mhm.
take a whole lot of energy to do it. Um, so that's the first thing. Is there some action that you can do today, even if it's a little uncomfortable, that can help you to lessen or alleviate that struggle in your life? And sometimes the answer is no. There's not an action that you can clearly delineate. Uh, if that happens, you still have a choice. And
Mm.
your choice then is what we're calling acceptance. Or another way of thinking about that is shifting your perspective.
Mhm.
What would happen? What would that look like for you if you could choose to accept the struggle that you've got? Um, that doesn't mean that I'm telling you you should stay in a bad situation because it's difficult to leave or anything like that. But what would acceptance look like for you? And really, I'll say it again, it can come down to just shifting your perspective of it. And mom, I know when we chatted before, you brought up, I really loved you saying it, giving the other person, if the struggle is an interrelational thing, giving the other people the benefit of the doubt. Sometimes just having some grace towards someone else,
Mhm.
and that can be, easier said than done.
Mhm.
That alone reflects back on you and can change how you view the situation. So maybe you've got action that you can take with your struggle, or maybe you've got a shift in your mindset or perspective, some acceptance of it. And maybe one of those will work for this struggle that we're talking about. How does that sit with you, mom? What do you think?
Mm. I think what I'm hearing you say is that choices are good. And
Choice is good. Yeah.
and when we have a choice, even if that doesn't mean massive action that's visible to other people, when the shift is here and in here, and I'm pointing like head and heart, then there's relief.
Mm,
And when there's choice, there's hope.
yes.
So there always is. And I'm getting around to uh, the consistency of understanding that there's always a choice. There's always a choice. And I think in my younger years, and Claire, you're way beyond where I was at your age. There's things that I thought were permanent, like they're going to
Mm,
last forever. And that burden of that long-term, long game, which was false in many cases, like seasons would last forever. They don't. That things come to an end, something else comes that that felt so overwhelming to me. But I know now there's a choice, and when I have a choice, then I have hope, and then it puts it into perspective for me, where I get more creative with my either problem solving,
mm,
or sometimes it is acceptance. Like, I will stay in this particular role because I'm trying to earn money for this specific thing, and it's short, like here's the end date. So like, most times I'm going to gamify it that way, where I can do anything if I know my why. So it gets me clear on my why, which is a whole nother facet of getting to know myself, is getting to know my why in the situations that can look outwardly like a struggle. And sometimes they even turn into a gift. So there's that.
I like that. And I think when we're talking about struggles in general, um, the struggles that we have, a lot of the times you can ask yourself, like, is this struggle that I have, is this something worth struggling for? Right? Because
Huh.
maybe it is, again, with when we're talking about the acceptance or like the mindset, and I love it, I'm going to parrot it. I can do anything if I know my why, like
Mhm.
100,000% knowing yourself. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
So that was activity number one, walking through one of these struggles that we have. Now we're going to move on to got another mini activity today. Mom, you're going to lead us through this. We're going to be talking about what? Limiting beliefs.
Limiting beliefs. I love them, and they get such airplay, and they are. what is a limiting belief? I mean, I do hear about it. I'm guessing you guys have heard about it too, but it's described as a state of mind or a belief about ourselves that restricts or affects us in some way. So it just has an impact on us in one way or another, usually not in a great way. So if it's limiting, um, artificial limits. So my guess and my experience has been that we've all got them to some extent. Some voices that either have been given to us, they've been gifted to us. We've picked up on them at certain times of our lives that felt truthful, so they stuck. To your earlier point, Claire, just because we've thought something over and over again doesn't mean that it's true. Just means it's comfortable. So it just sounds familiar. So that doesn't get a lot of attention in our brains. It's like that slides by on the conveyor belt. It's like, no, like that, because like this one's acceptable. When I come to different periods in my life, I'm like, that is no longer acceptable
Mm-hmm.
because that has become now not only I'm not tripping over a pebble, now it's become a giant rock. So I'm going to take a look at it. So um, and when I sat down to think about it, for the limiting beliefs for me, they're that I look at them, they're either a shout or a whisper. And the ones that are a shout are like whoa, like that's the same way that I'll categorize a struggle. Like the if it's something big and it's a pattern of it, it's time to take a look at it. Like and it comes front and center and it's a big one. Those are almost easier because they're so obvious.
Yeah.
What I'm interested in, what I'm looking at in my life are the whispery ones, the ones that have been lying dormant. And I love the shadow side of it. Like they're just, we talk about things lurking, limiting beliefs like to lurk, and they like to remain nameless and faceless. And I'm like, nope. So the whispery ones, they can stay whispery. We've talked many times about being able to turn down the volume of distorted thoughts or a limiting belief. And I still stand by that. We stand by that. But the whisper has to have a name too. I don't want it to go unidentified because then it can wreak havoc. And then I don't know why. Because I
Mm.
can't pinpoint where it is. It's like limiting belief whack-a-mole, and I don't know how to what to call it because when we call things by name, all of a sudden now that feels more personal and we've got more detail with it. So what I'm hoping is helpful for you guys as much as it's been for us. We'll talk about limiting beliefs and some ways to counterbalance that and get some data points on the other side. But I thought it might be helpful to have another area here, and that is, when do they show up? So that's something that I found really interesting because then I can then I can be in a relaxed way on defense. Like I'm looking for you. I'm looking for you. So if I'm in these situations, I'm like, when are you coming to the party? So here are four situations that limiting beliefs pop up for me. Okay. One of them is when I'm just about to start something new. I'm like right on the precipice of beginning a new adventure, starting a new role, entering a new relationship, just anything. Like there's like a whoop. When I go to try something new, there will be a counterbalance on the other side. And it always precedes the action. It precedes, like I can make a decision, I'm going to go do something. I haven't done it yet, though.
Mm.
That's when my limiting belief comes into play. Who do you think you are? Are you enough to even do that? Blah, blah, blah. Like some of those come out to play. So I'm like, come on, I'm about ready to do something. Y'all coming out now? Let's go. So the first one again is when I'm about to start something new. The second time that they show up for me is when I'm in the midst of a struggle. I'm in the midst of a struggle. So I interpret that as my endurance is starting to wear down. So I'm getting the effects of toiling. So when I'm struggling to meet a goal, when I'm struggling with a thought or a relationship, whatever the struggle is, it to me it's an endurance issue. I start to get tired. And that leads me into the third time when these limiting beliefs show up for me. And that's when my trifecta is off balance. When I move, how I fuel, how I rest. And if one of those is off for any length of time over like a couple of days, then I'm not not whole. My wheel isn't round. I'm like, I feel like a cave woman. Like now I'm like clunk, 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 like in big stone wheels, like on the Flintstones. If you guys are old enough to remember the Flintstones. Thank you for that. We'll get comments on that one. But so that's the important of why we always so frequently link physical health and fitness with mental health and fitness, because I see them as being very interrelated. And the physical part also is how we're nourishing ourselves with food, with what we're intaking, like that. And then the sleep thing, that's not the afterthought anymore. That's not the afterthought. That is all synergistically helping me to understand that, to discern something that's an old voice and something, and the fuel behind my zeal and curiosity and momentum going forward. So again, what we do here affects everything up here too. That was a long time to say that, but you get what I mean, right? Okay. And then the last time, and this, I don't know if this is for anybody else, but my limiting beliefs come up when I spend too much time on social media,
Mm,
whether it's official doom scrolling or I just haven't cleaned out my feed in a while. And I'm just hearing too much of the same. I mean, I love when people think differently than I do. I'm not looking to have just people that have the same type of voice, but when it's provocative for provocative sake, or it really just is, you know how you feel when you read certain stuff. You know, sometimes there's that urge to go like, I'm going to go look at the comments and see what that looks like. To what end? To what end? And if we are, let's face it, if we're in an election year, there's going to be a lot more of that discernment that we could use or not use to help us. But if I know that the direct effect of me doing that means that my old stuff comes up to play to trip me up for my future self, then I have more reason to protect my mind, because I like moving forward. I am excited about life. I think my best is ahead of me still. And I want to clear the path
mhm.
for the things that I can, that are under my control, to allow me to keep moving forward with my foot down on the gas. So that's when they show up. Okay. So I'm a maximizer too. Do you guys do that? Like, I really like it when people take a swing at life, like take a swing at it. So any ways that I can make that a better time, I'm going to do it. I don't know if you guys are like that too. So far, so good. Is any of this landing for you, Claire?
Yeah, you said something about got to do it for future you. Let's
Yeah,
be aware of these situations that could be affecting how future you feel. So that definitely lands for me.
yeah. And I hope there's always a piece of that that's with us. Not that we're spending so much time in the future, and you didn't say it like that. In balance, to know that there's things over here that I'm excited to get up in the morning to continue to explore.
Hmm.
And I want to clear the path out for that. I don't necessarily want a one lane, here we go with the car thing again. I want like a super highway going that way. Okay, done with the car stuff. Now, what is a limiting belief? Let's get to it. I'm wondering if when we first started mentioning that, a couple popped up, you're like, oh, here's the thing I think. Let's pretend none of us have them. What would it look like if you were just giving some random ones? So if you're paper penciling, whatever, writing it down, take the ones that just hit you first. Like you're like, I don't necessarily want that one, but that one creeps up for me. That don't let that get in the way with being honest with yourself right here. Nobody's judging you. You're doing it by yourself. So let's see what happens here. A limiting belief. How about, let's start with the grand master of them. I am not worthy of, and then you fill in the blank. Or hey, maybe there's no blank. Maybe it's just I'm not worthy. Okay. The second one, I am going to fail. Fill in the blank. At what? I'm going to fail. And that could be little stuff, and it can be complex tasks and goals, just the fear of failure. How about the third one? I am not blank enough. What are you not enough of, if anything? Or how about, if I can't do it perfectly, I'm not going to do it at all. And I shouldn't do it. Boy, that one cuts me, right? Oof. How about two more? I don't want people to think blank about me. Hmm. And then finally, and there are many others, I don't deserve fill in the blank. My guess is at least one of those has been a thought at some time in our minds. And just take like 10 seconds. Maybe you've had some uneasiness. I would call that an unnamed whisper. Can you give it a name? Which is the one, if any, that is showing up in your life right now, today? Okay. So we could spend tons of time. I love it. You're gonna hit pause if you need to do that. It's so funny. We filmed this on YouTube. My 90-pound black shepherd. It's raining outside here, and he's like almost in my lap, pushing me out of the way of my desk. So I keep like moving. And it looks like I'm like fidgeting, but I'm like, this big guy right here is nervous.
Oh,
Okay. He's not having limiting beliefs. He's having real beliefs about scary beliefs about storms. Anyway, he's okay.
poor Ed.
Now, the cool thing is that we have addressed limiting beliefs before, and I think with most things, as we're getting to know ourselves, it might take taking a swing at it a couple of different times through different perspectives in different seasons. You will come up with you will enrich your understanding when you look at it a couple of different times. And here's the caveat on that: if you hear something or you feel something and it's kind of familiar and then we disregard it because it's familiar, that should automatically bring it right back into your focus. If this is familiar, then this is something that I should own. Don't let that one pass through and be like, yeah, I've seen that one. I've got it. No, no, no. There's probably not a whole bunch of new information in this space. It's how you're applying it and how deeply right now. Because maybe today's your day where it's like, I'm not like qualified enough. Maybe that's when you like let that go. Having a conversation with somebody today, it was like, you realize you're a leader, right? She was like, no, I don't really see myself as a leader. Oh, yes, you are. So saying like, I'm not a leader enough, like, oh, no, no, no. Like sometimes we need others to be our champions and then to plant a seed, but then we got to pick up that torch too and go like, yeah, I am. So however it lands for you, it lands for you. So we do have a podcast about celebrating your strengths and your positive affirmations. So the catalog that we have now is how many episodes deep, Claire? 70,
Um,
80? We got a bunch.
I'll look it up right now.
So for positive affirmations, and I should have mentioned that before, but even to go like the what, the why, and the how, we do have an episode on that can reaffirm this. But for our challenges right now, for our purposes right now, let's just give a couple right here. Again, pick your low-hanging fruit. Pick the ones that you want to hear for yourself, whether you put it on a Post-it note or any kind of alarm on your phone, or you just some way that you're going to ping yourself so you remember this. I like the Post-it note on a mirror. I like that when I'm brushing my teeth. I just want to see it. My eye catches it. It goes in my brain. And we start front loading the affirmations, the ones that mean something to us. And maybe that would be one of these right here, right now. So here we go, Rebels. The first one, I am good at fill in the blank. What are you good at? Yeah, let's build those wins. A statement with a period at the end of it is this: I am enough. How about I can do hard things? Thanks, Glenn and Doyle. True, true though. I can do hard things, and you can too. Or how about I do my best, and my best is good enough? The way I look at that one is I'm not going to let perfection be the enemy of good. Good is way better than nothing.
Mm.
Boy, I keep learning that one over and over again. I trust myself. to make the next right decision. And I like the word next in there. You can make good decisions. I'm just going to make the next right one, the next one, because that'll then the next one after that and the next one after that, and we'll just group them all together. How about I am safe and supported? Sometimes if your past is different than your present, you may need to get more of that messaging, that truth to counterbalance just old stuff. Couple more. I love and accept myself. Today, not when I do whatever. Today, I just do it just cuz. And let's conclude with this one, which is I wonder, I don't know if there's a gender difference on this one. I see it more in women. I see it in myself, but I love that I'm going to give myself permission to take up space. Gosh, I'm so inspired. I just got hot. I'm like hot. No, like when something hits me, I'm like, yep, I needed to hear this today. How
Mhm.
about you, Claire? Did any of these like land and you went, oh, yeah.
I love the I trust myself to make the next right decision because how often do we say that you don't have to know your whole journey? It's just about taking the next step. Even when we were talking earlier about the first exercise, it's just what's the one small action you can take. But I think that precursor is trusting that you're making the right decision. So I think we could all owe it to ourselves to tell that to ourselves
Mm,
that we are going to make that next right decision, to trust that there is that inner wisdom that we have. And when we do things like take this time to reflect, to look a little bit deeper, like this is the important work, I think, not necessarily the flashiest stuff. And mom, you talked a bit about that with social media, like, these clips aren't the most provocative, but there is something so important about the familiar. So I completely agree with what you were saying there, that these topics do keep coming up because they are worth examining. And I absolutely love how you said that maybe today is your day that you make some headway on this. Maybe you've looked at this 17 times before. It's a new day. Maybe today's your day where you're going to get some clarity. Why not now?
mm,
Right? I actually have that as a sticker that I'm using as a bookmark right now. Why not now? So that's definitely one of these things that I want to repeat to myself. Um, I want to add this, it will be our 89th episode.
I
So we
wouldn't
are
have guessed that.
getting, I know, so we are getting closer to 100. And speaking of past episodes, Mom, you mentioned it. We've got one that's the what, why, and how behind positive affirmations. So if you want to dig deeper and do an extended version of this little exercise, then you'll go find that one. We also have how to effectively handle negative emotions. So if
Mm,
by walking through your struggles, it's stirring up some feelings, you'll want to check out that episode. Um, and also time for a quick mental health reset. Because
mm,
again, sometimes if we're focusing on some of the shadow side, even though hopefully you're feeling empowered here, because what did we do? We had two exercises, one where we're kind of telling the story of our struggle, but then you have a choice. You
mm,
can choose some action that you're going to take, or you're going to choose acceptance and shifting your perspective. And then we talked about the limiting beliefs. And mom, I love how you mentioned these whispery ones that are just namelessly floating around. Like, no, we're going to, like, gotcha. We're going to look at you. We're going to examine you. And then you can intentionally fill that space in your brain with something positive. Maybe we'll throw out a positive affirmation. One of the alarms on my phone is actually I am enough. And it just
mm.
rings at 2:20, and hey, it's a reminder. So it's one of those nice little reminders that you have. So if you're listening, Rebel, thank you so much for joining us today. We had fun throwing our car analogies at you. And maybe today is your day that one of these exercises is going to stick. You're going to have an aha moment. Why not now? We hope you enjoyed it. We love having you along for this journey. Until next time, Rebels.